Peace, and welcome to the Tailored Healing Collective podcast. This is a space for, but never limited to, people of color for discussing sacred plant medicine, pregnancy, parenthood, and more. You know, there's such a stigma on who can open the floor for conversation on these topics that are viewed as taboo or even inappropriate. This fact alone has made so many become fearful of the very thing that could help us rebuild families, create our own businesses, and most importantly, trust our role in this world as future ancestors. So wherever you are, take a cleansing breath and do your best to listen with an open mind, heart, and spirit, and let love lead the way. I'm your host, Taylor. Hello again, and welcome to the Tailored Healing Collective podcast. This is your host, Taylor. Today I have a very special guest with me, my friend Demi. She's here to talk all things release, travel, plant medicine, and much more today. So I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit and we'll get into today's conversation. So, hi, Demi.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Demi. Taylor and we've known each other for I think a couple of years now. And I think our friendship kind of really flourished once we started to really get more vulnerable with our experiences with plant medicine, or finding that as like a common ground between us and the different ways that plant medicine has played a part in like the pivotal moments in our lives. When it comes to my personal experience with plant medicine, it really started with cannabis. And at first I was very much a non-believer. I would judge it just based off ideas that I have of it and the different forms, or I guess the recreational ways that it was consumed. So I judged a lot of my friends in the beginning, not knowing that it's something that's natural, something that has so many healing properties. But I immediately, unfortunately, and it's funny to say it now, associated it with tobacco when it has nothing to do with that. If anything, it's just the polar opposite. But I think the way that I then began using cannabis is more because of how productive I would feel creatively. I am a business-minded person, so I love brainstorming. I love coming up with ideas. I love just letting my imagination wander, because that's kind of the person that I am, to just experience and do a lot of things. I know that I'm going to do a lot of things in this life, so cannabis really helps kind of just open that third eye and to really allow me to see a lot of things differently, and also how the way that everything in my environment becomes a spark of inspiration. So from there, I then opened myself up to exploring other forms of plant medicine. I never had any plans to try or do anything but. And then since I was then introduced to the different benefits that CBD has versus a THC product, and would use that mostly to kind of just heal the anxiety that we all now experience with just the state of the world. So that really helps to calm me down. And then since explored psychedelics, and actually just last year, I dove headfirst into ayahuasca. So that was very much, or has been thus far, my experience with plant medicine.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of stories similar to most people who have not been introduced earlier in life, kind of go about it judging, looking back and forth saying, okay, this is wrong. I did once to associate it with tobacco, not realizing tobacco is just what you roll it in. It's just a catalyst. So that's really interesting. For you, so I have a few questions. I know I have some things written out for us to talk about, but one thing that just popped in my mind while you were talking about judgment was culturally, Does anybody, I won't even say in your family, but did you ever grow up knowing anyone to use plant medicine? How do people within culture, because I know Demi is Dominican, so that's another bond that we have, but she's more connected with her culture. So I'm just curious, does anyone, ever talk about plant medicine, use it in ritual, or is that something that's not really talked about?
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because the only times that I have seen, what is considered a drug in my neighborhood really is, the what do we call it? The people who hug the block, and who are just always hanging outside. And, I've always seen it as like a lazy drug. Like it's just gonna keep you unproductive and make you lazy. So, that's kind of like the experience that I had to see people who did use cannabis. But of course, not actually opening myself up to learn about it and experience it. And even in the beginning as well, just with my friends, and the fact that when you would consume it, it would have to be hidden. And, because with very traditional, just Latino families, it's something that is shameful, that if the family were to find out, it's like you have a scarlet letter on you. So that's kind of the experience that I had, which is another reason why I did have that judgment, because of that having, your parents and that pressure and them literally on your shoulder like, don't you dare. So that's kind of like that fear of disappointing my parents, in a way.
It's funny that even though we're talking about more American bred Latinos, it's funny how like a lot of this indigenous plant medicine comes from Latin American countries. Right. But it's like we can talk about it there, but here it's like, no.
Yeah, no, that's really, really funny. Yeah, because just growing up, even when, just quickly bringing back up tobacco, there are so many different types of tobacco that do have a lot of healing properties, or at least, used within like spirituality. And, I grew up hearing about like my grandparents and stuff who would like chew tobacco, and that was kind of like their recreational thing. But yeah, you're right. Like here it's something that you wouldn't even want to like dare get caught with. I mean, of course it's 2022. We do live in different times, but there's still like judgment. It hasn't, all of the blockages haven't been lifted just yet.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've gotten a little bit of both. So I've also had a lot of the African American community in my life growing up. And I remember being younger, and I had my first book on cannabis. And it was just like one of those almanacs that just tells you like different strains. And anyway, my stepdad found it, and he looked at me. He was like, "You think this is what successful people do? Successful people have this." And it's so funny now because he was bragging to Adrian, my husband, about investing in a CBD line. I'm like, really? Okay, but it's whatever at this point.
It's interesting too how, like, I wonder within our parents, because right when it comes to my personal experience, my parents know that I've tried it. They know that my brother has consumed it and tried it as well. So when I've talked to them about the benefits that I've had with CBD, which derives from the same plant, they're actually open to trying it, just to better their everyday. So it's really interesting. But of course, it's just all words and exposure and just being open to learning.
CBD is diet weed anyways.
Basically.
But so I guess the more media makes it acceptable, the more like people will ease into it. But until then, it's still like just one of those things you're not supposed to touch or be around.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it'll make you lazy. But I think that's funny too, because my mind is never lazy on any plant medicine. In fact, it probably does a little too much.
Yeah. I mean, just the other day, my roommate and I were watching this show on Amazon Prime called Undone.
Oh my gosh, I watched that. It was so good.
It's so good. Yeah, I'm up to the second season. But within the show, you know, there is a lot of like time travel within there, and you know, we had smoked right before, and as
that show is trippy to watch.
oh man, I opened my laptop and I wrote 3 separate notes because my mind was just racing with ideas and inspiration, and you know, watching that show, it kind of just even triggers something else. So it's an incredible show. I feel like there's just so much that I want to like break down of things that happen on that show. And of course, the way that the way that I usually experience and try to be intentional when I use plant medicine is to just find how the world around me, whether it's the entertainment I'm watching, what I'm reading. I read this thing once that it said, and I don't know if it's specific to like me and my human design or my zodiac or just being in tune with yourself, that everything that's placed in front of you is for a reason, including what you choose to watch on television, what you choose to see on social media. Whatever grasps your attention, it's supposed to be in front of you.
Yeah.
So every time I'm on plant medicine, that's usually my intention, is for me to kind of just really observe my surroundings and be able to find ways for that to relate to my life and how I can be a better person, how I can get closer to my purpose. Because we both know, just like I mentioned earlier, I want to do it all. I just want to experience. There's so many different lanes that I can choose to go to, that I want to explore, and plant medicine definitely helps me focus on one thing and just really, at least through writing, expand like what that is.
I agree. I think it definitely helps with the creative side. It helps tap into your intuitive side. It does so much in such a short amount of time, and it's amazing how you can carry that over from an experience. I think that's a misconception a lot of people have. They think it's just like this quick fun time where you don't really remember, like when you drink alcohol or, you know, do any other illicit drug, you know.
Yeah, but it's
that's
so
not what
expansive.
it's
Yeah.
They say mind altering, but the thing is, like, number one, what is an altered state of mind first? And then two, you know, while you're there and you're experiencing these things, you're able to grab pieces. See, mic's falling off. You're able to grab pieces from the experience, take it with you, and then learn from it in the future. And then the next time, if you choose to do it again, you can experience something completely different and still learn and gain something from it. So it's always been useful to me in that way. So let's get into some of these questions. What has been the easiest part of going on a plant medicine journey for you? Not that it ever is easy. It requires a lot. It requires trust. It requires faith. But I'm just curious on your end, what's been the easiest part for you?
I think is the power that I feel within myself to allow myself to try new things. Especially if, sure, I grew up listening to so many like negative connotations when it comes to plant medicine, but then learning more about it, and of course like social media does play a big part. Knowing that there's no real danger, I'm not necessarily putting my life at risk in any way, or at least my health at risk. So I've always considered myself the person to just try something once, like to just do it. And I definitely feel like that's how most of us are in our 20s. It's like we have this like excitement to take risks and try new things, and with me that's exactly what's happened with plant medicine. Like for example, when I did ayahuasca, I had heard about it over a year before I ever did it. And it was through listening to a podcast actually, and just the different ways that it can, like the different benefits that it can be used for. And that's where I really learned about intentions, being, you know, having an intention when you are using plant medicine. So at that moment where I was in my life, I wasn't prepared mentally for that experience, because I knew it would very much be a spiritual awakening, which is exactly what it was. So the year after, I can't even tell you. It was one of those impulse things where I had the money and it randomly popped up back in my head, and I just booked. I booked a weekend ceremony in Orlando, and I just did it. I still can't remember how I got there. It was just almost like one of those like natural things, like if I was being called to take this medicine, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. A very pleasant and positive first experience. But I do think the year and a half prior to me consuming ayahuasca was very heavy months of me really releasing a lot to come back into myself and then be able to then explore who I am while doing ayahuasca, and really kind of just figuring out my life versus having that dead weight on me because of like the trauma that I experienced and during the pandemic, and really just holding space for myself, letting it go. And then within ayahuasca, it's like, all right, I feel better now. I'm ready for these next steps. So I took the medicine to kind of like seek that guidance. So I think it's always kind of been easy for me to embrace plant medicine, because I know it's just always going to do more good than bad.
So it's funny that you also mentioned about you being called to do it. So many people, I feel like they think that this is something that's forced upon you, or they call it a gateway drug, and I don't know when person is like, you just have to do this. I've heard people talk about their experiences a lot and marvel at everything that's happened and share them, but I've never like heard anybody force into it. So when you said you're called to it, I think I kind of feel similarly. Like, I haven't gotten called to do ayahuasca yet. I think I will one day, but I think it happens for every specific person for a reason, no matter what you're going through. And like you said, you could have months of, going through this whole dark night of the soul kind of thing,
yeah,
and then come to it because it's time for you to kind of face yourself, face reality.
And that's it, exactly, yeah. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what it was. And ever since doing ayahuasca, I always tell folks I don't feel like I'm the same person. But now I realize so much how we are just mirrors to each other. And right, when you're on the medicine, you are facing yourself, facing, your subconscious in a way. And it's like you don't really know what's going to pop up when you take the medicine. Like when, the ceremony that I had, there were multiple people of us in a room. But, after the medicine is done, the day after, when we talk about our experience, everyone has a completely different experience. But again, it's very related to the intentions that they originally took the medicine for. So, for example, like I just said with me, I had a very pleasant experience. I went to the greatest concerts I've ever been to while on the medicine. And it sounds really funny to say out loud, but the music I was hearing, the visions that I was seeing, the emotions that I was feeling, it was all very positive. But again, I do think it's because the months prior I worked through so much. And although, a lot of things did come up during the trip, but at the end of the day, then with everyone else, there were people who were crying in the room, people who were releasing through different, just different ways. So it was really interesting to just experience it at a whole, not only just myself, but also within my surroundings.
I think it's a good example too of another misconception people have, that we expect plant medicine to do the work for us. It does not. And like you said, you worked through things for months before. So it's not like, you sit down, you have a cup of ayahuasca, or, you consume anything else and like, bam, instant fix. Like, it doesn't work like that. You're actually left with quite a lot more after, in my opinion.
It's exactly what they told me when we did do the medicine. Excuse me. Like, it's thinking about it like like a roller coaster almost. It's like once you're on the medicine, they can't take you out of it. What you're going to experience is what you need to experience. They always say, the medicine is not going to show you what you want, it's going to show you what you need. And then once you're off this ride, it's like, all right, how are you going to live your life now? The implementation portion is the most important part, because just like you said, you can easily consume and just go about your life and continue to, have the same issues or whatever it is that you've been dying to work on, but you're not intentional about it. You're not doing anything afterwards. It's all about the action that you take. And that's something that, for sure, since I've consumed the medicine, it's been something that I've been actively trying to do.
Nice. So we're talking about being on these journeys, and you mentioned you went to several concerts and felt music and everything. You were there. Was it easy for you to embrace the idea of a different reality? We also have a little baby with us, guys. This is a reality of my show because I'm a mom of 2 now, so you're gonna every now and then hear some pots and pans banging, hear a baby, hear my toddler running around, but it's just to make this more realistic. This is life. We have interruptions, and these are the kind of the things you just have to go with it. But back to my question about embracing a different reality. 1 second. We'll pause it real quick. Every time I get ready to talk, she doesn't want me to. Okay, so experiencing a different reality. I feel like when we go on these journeys, it's like we're stepping into a portal into another world. So for you, what was it like embracing the idea of stepping into a reality outside of the normal one that you're used to? Okay, you can answer.
When it comes to embracing different realities, it feels easy to do that. I've been having a lot of conversations, I want to say, maybe within the last 3-4 weeks about choices and choosing to experience something for what it's supposed to do, and choosing to fully experience things, because it is scary. I feel like that's one thing that as human beings we kind of just have to learn how to embrace, is the uncertainty and unknown, but learn to surrender to it. So when being on the medicine, that's something that I have told myself constantly to do whenever the natural anxiety of trying something new pops up. It's like, just surrender to the experience, surrender to the moment, surrender to the medicine. And that really allows you to just experience things fully. And with everything you do in life, not even just with plant medicine, if you don't like it, don't do it again. But still give yourself the chance to just allow something new in your life. So that's something that I actually really embrace, is doing new things and change, because that's how I feel like we evolve as human beings.
I agree. I don't think there's any evolution without change at all, but it's really hard and difficult to open up people to these ideas because they're so stuck in their ways and their one version of reality that it is very scary to think of embracing any other way of being, doing anything else. Which is crazy because we invite so many different ideas into our lives every day, especially ones like portrayed in the media. So it's like, if we can do that, then why are we constantly rejecting things that are natural, that were practiced by our indigenous ancestors? That seems more wrong to people nowadays than taking, the next prescribed drug on TV where everybody's dancing around and happy.
Girl, even allowing people in your life, it's still right. Just with anything, you mentioned prescription drugs. I also consider people an experience. We're just all different people living here, and how you're attracted to certain people, or like how they say certain people, it's either a lesson or a blessing.
Yeah.
So you choose to have certain people in your life, and you can also choose to have certain experiences in your life. and also really examine, like, when it did come to plant medicine and the ideas that I had of it, you know, with my family and how it's looked in within my culture and how I saw it firsthand, you know, in my neighborhood, it was pretty negative. Yeah. But I opened myself up to learning about it and then gave it a chance, and then now I consume it in a completely different way from when I first did, because it's all about evolving with the medicine. I created a relationship with the medicine, and we've evolved to the point that the benefits it has given me is infinite. So many different benefits that I have now. And, you know, now that I am about to embark on this nomad adventure, one of the main things that I'm like really excited to do is to learn about other plant medicines and trying those out and documenting it and showing people like it's okay, you know, it's something that's already existed before we were even here. It isn't anything, you know, there's no scientists or there aren't any like just malintention behind it. It's something natural that's existed, but unfortunately in the world that we live in, it's been, what's the word,
tainted.
Yeah,
I definitely see that, especially like, I don't know what it is. People want scientific confirmation for everything, but it's like, I know this probably sounds silly to some people, but you think our ancestors were running around asking the latest scientists, you know, what's the percentage of people doing this and that? Like, some things were passed on through community and through elders, but it's just like we don't really have that information anymore. So with it all going mainstream now, it's mostly like hearsay, and then, you know, we're only going to trust, you know, what we see on TV or what a celebrity says, rather than finding the experience for ourselves.
Our parents religiously watching the news. It's like, I mean, of course, this would just go into like the theories and the wokeness of, like, you know, controlled media and stuff. But again, it's really all about just allowing yourself to have different perspective. It's not always what you think it is, you know. With everything in life, it is all very subjective. You know, we all have our certain opinions. Why? Because we grew up a certain way. We have certain beliefs, and our culture, it's done a certain way. And what in this country may be seen as something, you know, criminalized and stuff, you know, just like you mentioned, in these Latino, Latin America, South America, Central America, it's all very common to use for healing, for expanding your mind, because there are just, again, infinite possibilities when it comes to you getting different ideas, different inspiration, learning new things about yourself and who you are.
You know, America, we're the last ones to know something, the first ones to steal it, so.
Yeah. Steal it and remake it in a really bad way. I feel like America is like the off-brand of the world.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so for the times that you did not necessarily have an easy time releasing and just letting faith come in for you during a plant medicine journey, what helped you during the times that were rough?
Writing, 100% writing. Although I am very lucky to have the community that I do, for all of my life, I feel like I've attracted, when it comes to friendships, I've attracted the right people that I need at that moment in life. And I love that the relationships that I have created have, for now, like decades and stuff. But when it comes to this personal journey of like things not being easy, especially with plant medicine, as much as I love to consume with my community, when it's been hard to release is usually when I'm by myself with my own thoughts. It's not always going to be flowers and rainbows. Sometimes it will spark some sadness and anger, and I love to be able to just write things out, like what is popping up for me when I am feeling sad, or when I am feeling angry, or where I am feeling anxious. And I think it's called shadow work.
Yeah.
To really just start writing and then just keep writing to see what things pop up. For example, there was one time where I was just kind of just sitting in my porch after I had consumed plant medicine, and I started writing about the relationship that I have with my siblings. And I just started writing about kind of like how rough it was growing up, and how I didn't feel, I'm a middle child, so I'm not the firstborn and I'm not the baby. So it was interesting to, as an adult now, to just write about how I viewed my childhood, and then this pressure that I felt also as a first generation of having to do everything right. That whatever my parents said was the right thing to do. And as I'm writing, I just kept writing, and I wrote the word golden child. And then I realized, like, again, this is just how plant medicine kind of just opens my mind and just allows me to kind of therapize myself in a way. I wrote down golden child, and I realized that no one in my family has ever given me that title but myself. Because, my sister would do something, and then my brother would do something, and then like I felt like at one point I was my parents' only hope, when that was never really the case. But that fear of disappointing my parents is something that I've carried with me all of my life for the most part. And plant medicine kind of allowed me to release that, and I remember afterwards I called my parents, and I was telling my dad about everything that I had written, and he told me just straight up, he's like, he loves all of us equally. It doesn't matter what we've ever done in life. Of course, we're not perfect. So of course you're gonna do things that they don't want you to do. Of course this is gonna happen and that is gonna happen. It's life. But he's just like, he has always loved us all the same. Like, no one has ever told me you're the better child, so you're our only hope. No one has ever said that. Of course, just like I said, like, you're disappointed for a moment of the choices, but you understand that those are the choices that only you can make. So that realization is one of the many things that I've been able to let go because of plant medicine consumption.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thinking about the projections that we feel, especially from our parents, even when they don't say those things, that it still comes up for us. I know, speaking for myself, I'm the oldest of 4 siblings at home, and I felt like everything, while everybody looked to me in the beginning, it almost felt like I was the guinea pig for everything. And that I was like trial and error. Like, okay, we didn't get it right with you, so we'll do it right with everybody else. So then I'm forced to look at everybody else getting the treatment I wish that I would have had. Even though that's not their reality. That's just, how I look at the situation. I'm like, wow, I wish I would have gotten that kind of understanding or that. And now I'm like forced to reparent myself as I get older. But it's good that you got that confirmation from your dad. Like, I love you guys no matter what. It does not matter, who's who or who does what. That I love you regardless. And I hope to practice that same kind of thing with my kids. I don't love one more than the other. Like, they're both individual people. That I'm going to love them exactly for who they are, no matter what they want to try in life, no matter what they want to do. I'm sure there'll be pushback because I'm a parent, but either way, I would like to think I'll try to be more accepting than my parents, it felt like they were, of me at the time.
Definitely. And because I've allowed myself to really peel off layers and be vulnerable, my parents and I have always had a great relationship, despite omitting a lot of information. But because I've been so open with myself, and I've had so many realizations, within these last 2 years especially, I have become a lot closer with my parents because I see them for who they are, which are just human beings, just trying to every day just trying to make it through, But growing up, we have this expectation that there are superheroes, they're always right, know. And the older we get, we're like, not really.
We don't look at ourselves as equals with our parents. We're just like, okay, you're this being above me who's here to take care of me and guide me. And that, like, alone feels like a lot of pressure. At least I can say as a parent. Like, yes, I'm the bigger person. taking care of you, but I know just about as much as you do. You probably know more than me. You probably remember more than I do right now. And we're all like in this phase of trying to get back to what it felt like before we all forgot and remember, like, okay, we're in this Truman show, this shit show called life.
I know.
Trying to figure things out, when in reality, like when you experience plant medicine, one of the stories I hear similarly is people see that nothing really matters. I mean, everything matters and then nothing matters at the same time. Everything that we stress about is literally an illusion. You know, whether it's fear, money, you know, career, status, love, any of that, it's all an illusion because all of those things already live within us. It's just like about figuring out, okay, what does this look like for me?
Right. So earlier you had mentioned how, you know, when it comes to alcohol or anything that gives an altered state of mind, we've always almost defined an altered state of mind as something that is like bad. I don't
make you think you're crazy or you're gonna harm someone or something like that.
Yeah, and with what we were just talking about, it's like I feel like plant medicine has allowed me to connect more, not just with my family, which honestly has been a huge asset, including my siblings and I. It's amazing how our relationship is now, because we all consume plant medicine very differently, and how we're able to connect and open up with our parents. It's honestly pretty magical given our history and everything that we've all been through individually. But right, you know, we do realize that nothing but everything does matter, and plant medicine just allows you to connect with purpose, connect with people, connect with your environment and how you relate to the world around you. So that's one of the main reasons why I continue to use it, is because I want to continue connecting, and that's a huge part of what I love in life and what I believe my purpose and destiny is to be able to just connect with all things and be able to show people that it's okay, you know?
Yeah. It also allows you to be an observer more than just an experiencer, because I think like everyday life we're all just thinking about our own personal experiences we're going through, whereas when you become the observer, you can look and analyze things in a different way, like, okay, this is how I react, or okay, I see this person and this is like the emotional output I'm getting from them, versus thinking they're just being mean to me or they're just angry. Like, at least me, who I know like looks at people a little too hard, like I love thinking about like, okay, what's really going on with you? You're screaming at me, so what went wrong in your day? Like, what's affecting you right now? And most people don't want to talk about that, obviously, but like I said, when you're in that observer seat, you see so much, and some of it you have to be silent about because some of it we're just meant simply to observe.
Exactly. I know. I love to say that one of my favorite hobbies is people watching. I just love, especially now, even more that I feel like just my brain has expanded and I can just almost see through people now. But it's so interesting because now when I just sit back and observe people, it's like I feel like I can sometimes see like just people's inner child. And one of the other things that I think I'm really good at is knowing exactly what to tell people. People have often felt very comfortable talking to me, being vulnerable with me, even strangers. You know, I've met people abroad who will spill their entire life story to me, and I see that, you know, before I used to see that as my like just something that would bring me down or has brought me anxiety and stuff. But you know, through just allowing people to just be, I've been able to just connect with people on a different level. So I still do love people watching, but something that plant medicine has also allowed me to do is just observe nature. Like I love sitting in nature and just looking at trees. Like, you've been here for hundreds and hundreds of years.
I know, it's amazing.
What have you seen? What have you felt? What have people done to you? You know, and just really, you know, of course we have all these Netflix shows now that teach us about animals and how they mate with each other, how they find comfort and family and food and connection and all of that, even fantastic fungi and all of that within mushrooms. And it's just incredible how these are just all living organisms just like us. But I do feel like, yeah, when you do consume plant medicine, you just learn to have a connection with everything outside of yourself and outside of what you know. But you just learn so much.
You learn the most from nature, I believe, for sure. Mostly just because you realize, like, of course we always see this in these spiritual memes, like you're just a soul in a flesh suit pretty much, and then we think about like when our bodies decompose, we become one with nature again. I think always at the end of a plant medicine journey, like I'm always outside somewhere and kind of just marveling at everything that I see. And obviously I'm like, that's the end, that's like the final hour, probably like the golden hour where you're just kind of like, wow, I just went through 14, 15 hours of this, and this is what life really is before you had that crash.
Please tell me about it. So my first experience with psychedelics was that exact same way. My friends and I had taken a very random day trip to Houston, and it just popped up for us to consume psychedelics, and I had never before in my life. I had always heard about it, of course, great things. And again, it was almost like an impulse thing. I did it. And when I tell you that I was loving everything and anything around me, I don't remember laughing ever as hard as I did. Everything just looked beautiful. And that same day I kept, at its peak.
Yeah.
I was sending love letters to everyone. My siblings were like, girl, are you good? I'm like, I just want to tell you that I love you.
Why do people always ask? Like, I've had that before, and I'll call someone thinking I sound completely normal, just like a little happy. They're like, are you okay? I'm like, am I not supposed to be happy? Am I not supposed to enjoy?
Correct.
We're so used to like being in moods all the time and angry. Like, happiness seems like such a far off concept.
Yeah.
That it looks like you're probably drunk to people. Like, because you're drunk off of life. Literally.
Exactly. And it's just like you said, you just become just so much more connected to everything around you, and you realize, the way that most people do promote plant medicine is just realize that really at the core of everything, it's just love.
Yeah.
It's just love and appreciation because we're here, right? It's just going back to, what I mentioned before. It's a choice. Like, wake up and like choose to do what makes you happy. Doesn't mean that every day is going to be perfect. We all have bad days, but choose to find your happiness wherever it is, or choose to hold space for yourself. If you are, if these feelings do arise, they're for a reason. Sit with yourself, journal about it, pray about it, meditate about it, but like still allow yourself to choose to do something. That's one of the fears that I believe I have now. It's learning, like just becoming so acceptive of the fact that like nothing matters, that I start not to care about things. And I don't ever want to get to that place, because at the end of the day, nothing matters, but I still want to stay connected to this reality. Yeah. So that's one of like the things that you do need to find when you do consume plant medicine, is to really find that balance. Like, sure, you're going to realize that life is beautiful. There are a lot of things in life, despite the tragedies and things that do happen, but just hold space to connect with yourself, to eventually continue to connect with others, because I do think that relationships are kind of like so important.
And it's also, I think, important to remember when you have, like, you're in this euphoric state and everything feels so great, you do have to remember we're coming back down into this 3D world. Even though our minds can operate on a much higher level and a higher frequency, we were still put in these bodies and in this specific reality for a reason. So we can help create a new one, but also so we can embrace the one we're at, because there's light and dark. Like you said, you're doing shadow work there. we can say, oh yes, when we're on plant medicine or experiencing journeys, we see all these different realities, see how wonderful things can be, all the things we shouldn't be complaining about. But then you come back down to earth and somebody cuts you off in traffic, or you get into it with a friend, or a relationship ends, and then you have to kind of like settle with everything you learn and remember, okay, this is a tool for me, not to use all the time or abuse it, but to remember, even when life is great, there's still going to be hard moments. But the medicine is here to show you the reflection of yourself, how you react in those moments, how you respond, how you move forward. And it's like a continual lesson.
The implementation part, right? How you move forward. I think one of the most important lessons I learned because of plant medicine is how to set and instill and practice boundaries. That's the number one thing that I feel like has really helped shape my life for the better, is knowing how to connect with myself. And if my body is telling me that something or someone is not worth my energy, to be able to hold back and just allow people to be, but know that it's either a projection, it has nothing to do with me, or to just reflect, and just reflect if there is some truth in something that I do need to change about myself, but still give myself the chance to connect with myself first. It's almost like before any big decision, it's like check in with yourself first.
Yeah.
Give yourself a couple hours, although some things, we just finished talking about impulse as well. I do feel like there is still that balance of impulse, but also when it comes to just dealing with this like 3-dimensional life, it's check in with yourself first. And that's really important. I forgot my train of thought.
No, checking in with yourself is always important, for sure. And I also have to thank you, Mid. We're almost through our podcast today, but for being patient with me, because as you hear, my children are on 1,000 and they feed off of each other's energy. So one starts screaming, the other will. But again, it's a part of it. This is life as a mom. And I'm just thankful to have friends who understand that. So moving on to another question I have. So we've been talking a lot about entering these journeys and then releasing former ideas that we had of ourselves, what family might have thought of us. So outside of plant medicine, when you feel a release coming on or time for a change, what comes up for you? I can speak personally. You're the first one to see my haircut today.
She looks fabulous, by the way.
Hair is has a funny way of holding a lot of energy, a lot of memories, and very often when people are going through something, you find yourself changing your hair color, getting a new haircut. Also, I know for me, it can be like moving to a new place or starting a new project. But for you, what does that look like for outside of plant medicine? How does release show up, and how do you respond to it?
Solitude. I
feel that.
love being around people. In the last 2 years, there's definitely a balance between, I was typically always an extrovert. Growing up, I was the glue that put everyone together. All of they love to say that. I put my communities together. I love to bring people together. I love to host. I love to just talk with people, learn about people. It's one of my favorite things to do. But when it comes, when I feel it and I feel myself getting down or, irritable at times, it's solitude that allows me to release. So I remember in therapy once, I was always talking about how whenever I felt anxious or, my mental health would kind of just spark up and, depression and anxiety, I would always want to take a trip. I would always want to travel. I need to get out. I need to get out of the city. And my therapist and I had to have an entire conversation about escapism and how whatever it is I'm going through, if I move or I leave or I travel, wherever I go, it's going to stay with me.
Doesn't matter how far you go.
Yeah, and for a second it did make me analyze, because there were many times that whenever I was annoyed by anything, I would just want to leave, to kind of just save myself in a way. But is it really what I was going through, or was it myself? But I also kind of just challenged that, and really, because I'm just always surrounded by people, and at the time I didn't really know how to say no when it came to invitations or being around others, because I truly do enjoy being around others. That escapism just allowed me to be by myself. No one is around. No one that I know is around me, so I have no other choice but to hang out with myself and write and just hear my own thoughts. So that's something that has allowed me to release when it hasn't been really easy. I remember for my birthday in 2020, I took just a weekend solo trip because I wanted to be around water. It was still very much January or February, so it was still cold where I drove to, but I just sat at the beach by myself and just listened to the waves. Listen to the waves and kind of just allow myself to just breathe and just let go of everything, every feeling and every emotion, because everything for the most part is temporary, or you just learn to accept and adjust with everything that you go through. So right now, one of the ways that I'm releasing is actually choosing to travel full time, and I'm very nervous. I'm excited. I'm borderline terrified, but I keep saying, yeah, but that's part of the big change in that, all of those feelings, my perspective when it comes to the anxiousness, the terrifying feelings, it's like excitement. It's like I'm choosing to see it in a positive way, because I've never been steered wrong, and whatever happens will happen no matter what choice I make. So I'm choosing for this year to be my year, or this chapter of my life to be my chapter of surrender. And it's funny because who Demi was 4 years ago, planner queen. I would have my year planned out from January through December. Everything was in my calendar, super, super, super type A. And now I'm just learning to embrace going with the flow, and it's been pretty life-changing. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been really, really life-changing. So this next step is something that I've never ever done before. Mm-hmm. But I honestly have plant medicine to thank, really, because it was also after my ayahuasca trip. I had a vision of, I was listening to, mind you, they weren't playing this music, but I could hear brass bands in my ear, and I remember just seeing so much symbolism of the city, and I saw a book close. And prior to that, I had already been thinking about moving and how my chapter here was done, and that was just even more confirmation. And the numerology that would come up, it was just so much confirmation that you're ready for this next step. And as scary as it is to not have a permanent residence or permanent, just place to be in, I'm just, the world is my home, and that's what I'm choosing. That's what I'm saying it is. And I know that every single thing that's going to happen after I leave tomorrow, actually, is just all going to be great things.
So, you okay? It's such exciting to start a new chapter. I think the way chapters change throughout our lives. We often compare them to the new season of our life, like a show we're writing, kind of like Insecure on HBO or something like that. Like how you're like the writers of my life. They come up with some interesting material. So I wonder what's next for me. So hearing what's next for you as far as travel. I've always admired, like, the pictures you take and the experiences that you've had. I think those are important to share because people do lead lives outside of parenthood, outside of staying in their hometown or state. Some people just allow the world to be their home, their oyster, no matter where they choose to lay their head down. And that same ability to be able to experience, I think, is very similar to what you experience in plant medicine. You have to be open to going just about anywhere within your psyche.
Yeah.
And you can't run from it.
And again, once you do consume it intentionally, just like you mentioned, it does open up your intuitive, senses and all of that. So luckily, I don't feel like I'm not making the right decision. And that's what I'm holding on to. And of course, just like how I mentioned, how relationships have been such a pivotal just benefit that I've had in my life with the community that I have and the support that I have and the love that I have. I know that I'm always going to be okay. And it's something that I have to remind myself and that I often remind people, including you as well, is that you do have a tribe. You do have a tribe. And I learned this in my business class, when folks say that it's lonely at the top, whatever that looks like for you. It's a limiting belief. It's not real. You're setting that on yourself and on your life. But just embrace relationships, embrace people who feel good, even if it's for the time being. You outgrow people, you outgrow places, but continue to embrace what is in front of you and what makes you happy. Right? Like for you, it's like parenthood. Recently you talked about watching Rio, at the playground, and how beautiful it was to just see him connect with others and how it made you feel, and that's beautiful.
I think it's because I'm such an introvert too that it's not very often that I connect with a lot of people. So knowing, not purposely, that I've kept him, we've been very in solitude since he was born by ourselves. But to see him go out into the world and connect with other people, knowing me, like, I'm like, everybody's hurt me. I just want to stay to myself. Seeing him, like, as a child, he doesn't have those preconceptions in his mind. Like, you hurt me, so I don't want to be with you. Yeah. He sees other kids and like, oh, there's someone like me who I can connect with. Let me go play. If only we had that same feeling still. But it's like, now we sense vibes and we're like, no, I don't want to be around you. And, we'll go to the club. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. You're not for me. That different discernment you get as an adult versus a child who will literally just like walk up to you and play with you for no reason just because you're you. Like,
I mean, just imagine if we truly all did that as adults. If someone looks cool or like looks like, oh, we could probably play together, and we just go up to people, like, who knows how many connections we've missed just based off of, again, like the different beliefs and like the things that we've been through, the unfortunate suffering that we've all experienced, because human emotion is still very real. Again, we've all had very, very bad days amongst good days. It's just like that light and dark. Like, it's unpredictable. Life is unpredictable, but you can choose to just see the light. It sounds so like it's choose to see the light.
It's cliche, but it's very true. It's like when you understand how frequencies work, how your heart space, like opening that up, whether we're talking about aligning ourselves, our energy centers, when you change your perception of what it means to open up your heart, you just stop looking at it as, oh, I'm just opening my heart up to the people closest to me. It could be opening up your heart to a complete stranger, to someone you disagree with, to someone who's hurt you. There are tons of different ways to venture, into that section of life, I guess. Yeah. So I have a final question for you. We've talked about a lot today. And one of the questions I have, or the one question I have, is about a conversation you brought to me not too long ago. So my question was, what's one of your favorite ways to release outside of plant medicine? I know you said writing, but if we're talking physical practices, I know you brought up an episode of the show called Station 19 to me, and we had this long conversation how, like, within our cultures, like, dance is it's a big thing. It's a passion practice, but it's a way of release too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that?
100%. I think my second favorite way to release is through dancing. I wouldn't call myself a dancer, but there's just something about moving your body, and not something, there's so many things about moving your body that just helps you let go of the tension that you hold. I mean, it's not rocket science, that when you stretch, you release tension that you have in the body. Dance is the same exact way. I love to dance. I grew up listening to a lot of music, and it's always been a way that I've connected with my family. Like, that's actually the way that my father and I bond. We can sit for hours just listening to different, like, típico songs and the accordion and the drums, and we both have just our unique styles that we love. And then, we at family parties, the dancing as a kid, and our parents just being excited that we're just all dancing together. It's something that even like through adulthood, I still very much love to do. And I love to dance by myself in my room. I have this playlist on Spotify. It's like the Good Feel playlist, and it's just a mix of house and kizomba and Afrobeat and merengue and samba bachata and reggae and dance hall and everything. And I love to just sing and vocally release and also dance. And on the episode Station 19, one of the things that I've been trying to focus one of the things that I've been trying to focus on is actually womb healing. It's popped up a lot when I've done different meditative practices. Actually, the sound bowl session that you and I had over a year ago.
Wow, it's been a year.
Yeah, definitely over a year ago. And just in my shadow work, and again in the way that entertainment speaks to me now, I've been working a lot on healing my womb. And on Station 19, one of the main characters was on trial for killing someone who tried to sexually assault her, right? And her mother sees her on the news, and her estranged mother reaches out to her and talks with her. And once they're done crying and venting and talking about the probable things that can happen out of this, from this situation, her mother puts on some music and makes her get up to dance. And at first she's just like, what, like dance? Like, I'm exhausted. And her mom is like, no, because the way for you to get back into your body is to dance. And I watched that scene too many times, and I was crying so much when I watched that, because I've gone through a similar experience, and I didn't realize until now the different forms of release that we have available to us in order for us to really let go of the tension that is held in our body. And it was, wow, such a powerful, and of course, these are things that I see now. Someone could easily be watching the show, seeing it on very surface level, but the way that I saw it is like her mother, is telling her to dance. Her mother also shared, obviously this is all fictional, but a lot of us can relate to it, especially women. Her mother is telling her that she's happy that she got the chance to do something about her situation. And that was very powerful, because we don't realize how many toxic generational patterns we're breaking as we get older. We kind of just become more conscious about it through our experiences. And that was very powerful. And her mom asked her to dance, and they played salsa music, which is very much instilled in their cultural roots. So it's like not only a way to connect with your mother, who's still physically here with you, but also to connect with your ancestors and every woman that came before you. And I'm still learning of ways that I can do that with myself, but dance is definitely one of those things. Dancing palo music, and all of these things are just listening to different words and allowing yourself to just let it all go, leave it all on the dance floor. Even if it's at the comfort of your own room, it's really, really, really powerful and really healing.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always learned as a sound bath practitioner, not just through sound bowls, but how powerful music and sound can be. And we're sitting here talking about dance within culture, and I'm sitting here thinking about all the times I've been out dancing, like salsa, merengue, bachata, all of those. And we know, like, through within the words, there's so much passion that and feelings that we're sharing. But it's amazing how those words also transfer through your body. Like, I know people who don't know a lick of Spanish. My Spanish isn't even great, and you still feel whatever the music is putting there through you. And whether that be through connection and touch, dancing with another person, dancing with yourself, like, all music has a frequency. And I think most love songs have that same frequency of love in it. So when you're dancing to it, it's to feel good, literally, to allow. And then you're moving your body, so these emotions are now moving through your arms, your legs, all the places that you're holding tension, and resistance, and you're now allowing to flow freely. So just tying that in with plant medicine, and then with just where we are as adults who are evolving, like wounded adults at that, who are evolving into not, I don't even want to say like we're just turning into healed adults, because healing is not a linear process, but we're realizing, that inner child that just wants to dance again, that wants to just be, that wants to share, or go up to people, say, you want to play, you want to hang out, without feeling like, oh, what if they don't like me? What if I'm weird? What if, all these what ifs. It's always a what if in life, but, you have to just kind of go for it sometimes. So I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. I'm so sad that this is the last time we'll see each other for a while, but I know it won't be forever.
I know.
I do wish you luck on all your travels, as always. Would you like people to know your Instagram following, or your Instagram, if you would like for them to follow your next adventure, where you're going, any projects you have coming up you want to share?
Yes. Well, the thing with my projects is that I have so many ideas, and it's like, what am I actually going to come out with? But for the most part right now, I do have a podcast in the works as well, where I will be going into, like, just deep diving into the experiences that I've had, and the lessons that I've learned. I will hopefully also be having a little retail shop coming out very soon, all surrounded with positivity, connecting to self. So I'm really excited about that. My Instagram is currently the only one that is active, and it is at Demi Diaz, DEMDIAZ. Feel free to follow me in my next world adventures. So I'm really excited, and thank you, Taylor, for everything, for your friendship, for allowing me to be vulnerable, for being vulnerable with me, because I know it's not easy to do that with just anybody. So thank you so much. We have a very unique, incredible, strong connection. So I'm really excited to see, like, how our friendship will evolve too as time passes.
I know that it will, for sure. So I want to thank everybody for listening to today's episode. I will tag Demi's information in the show notes if you'd like to give her a follow. She is one of the best people I've met in a very long time, and very multifaceted. So there's plenty of ways you can find her doing interesting things. And I will talk to you all in the next episode, where we will break down more myths, more stories, and more connections through plant medicine, motherhood, pregnancy, and more. Until next time, let love and light lead the way, and I will talk to you all very soon. Peace. are an alchemist. Leave behind what no longer serves you. Remember, your physical body is only a system of transportation for the soul. Allow yourself to feel and forgive the past to move forward into the future. Connect with the self that wants to take chances, to explore and be. Allow this version of you to become rooted in its new environment and surroundings to grow. Become a vibrational match to your desires. Take the hand of your old self and lead them into a new future. Feel yourself at peace, in flow, in tune, and at one with all that there is and all that there will be. The rhythm of the universe. It takes form inside of your soul